This movie tells a story about Po, who's gearing up to become the spiritual leader of his Valley of Peace. He needs someone to take his place as Dragon Warrior, so he will train a new Kung Fu practitioner for the spot and will encounter a villain called the Chameleon who conjures villains from the past. First of all, this movie is the fourth in the Kung Fu Panda franchise and it is the worst. This weak and mediocre outing really struggles to justify its existence as it fails to prove itself worthy of cinematic inclusion. It has lost much of its creative spark and it only exists to underwhelm and diminish the franchise's legacy. It's missing the blockbuster scale from the previous movies, as the animation is not as crisp, some of the A-list voice casts are absent, and the story feels like it was cobbled together by unused plots from previous films. It feels like Po's story had reached full circle already, and there's nothing new that any of the fights in this movie could teach and develop him as a character. The story is flimsy, as the script constructs a rote and generic journey for Po and his new sidekick, while his squad, the Furious Five, are off on side quests. Po's arc is really disappointing, with more importance put on his comedic pratfalls and overbearing action sequences. There's nothing driving the relationship between Po's adoptive father and his blood-related one, as their issues were already resolved in Part 3. It's obvious from early on what the conflicts are going to be and when they will manifest, from an inevitable double-cross to a predictable change of heart. Despite some narrative ground to build upon, there's so much emotionality and thematic depth left on the table in favor of comedy above all. Instead of finding the perfect balance of humor as the previous films did, jokes outweigh and occasionally undercut the few resounding sentiments on personal evolution. We also wish the movie had better jokes. Outside of a few gags, many of the jokes are subpar compared to others in the franchise. The villain is also a big problem. As a villain, the Chameleon is not nearly as intimidating a presence as the villains from the first two movies. It's due to how this baddie is narratively drawn, forgotten about for a significant portion of the film, and not properly utilized to her full capacity. Unfortunately, even the animation is a step down, failing to deliver the much better aesthetics that made these films visually attractive in the past. Overall, it's not worth to watch this in theaters. Just wait on your streaming service.